Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Sonia and Ellen.
My name is Sonia Castaneda Cudney, and I am a doctoral candidate at University of Southern California's Price School of Public Policy. I am here today with my dear friend and the amazing Elyn Sachs, Dr. Elyn Sachs. Today we're going to be talking about Elyn Sachs' academic journey, starting from when she was much younger as a student and then moving into your professional role as a faculty member here at USC at the School of Law.
Sounds great.
And I am really excited to get to talk to you today about that. We're going to talk about how mental health and academia have been huge parts of your life.
Right.
And how they work together and maybe sometimes don't necessarily work together. And where we might want to go, where we hope that we're gonna go when it comes to mental health and academia. So I'm here today with Dr. Elyn Sachs,
Ellen.
the author of The Center Cannot Hold, My Journey Through Madness. And that was published in 2007, correct? Yeah. And that actually was your coming out, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So Elyn has lived an academic life and professional life up to that point without sharing about living with serious mental illness, which you live with schizophrenia.
Yes. And now that I'm out and open, it feels really good for people not have a big secret, for people to know and respect me and like me, and that kind of thing.
For sure. It's nice that everybody can get to know you as your full self.
Exactly.
So I don't have my notes today. And our technical difficulties. I feel like this is this is what happens.
Yeah.
But we have worked over our questions, and we're gonna start with talking about how, Elyn, your family and the expectations around your family and growing up, you grew up in
Miami,
Florida in the South. And you graduated from high school at what year?
1973.
Okay, so early 70s is where we're going to start today. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the attitudes and expectations for you around academics in your home.
So my parents were very kind and loving parents, but they also expected us to do well academically or in a job or whatever path we pursued. So when I went to college, I knew I had to try to do well.
Sorry, thanks so much, Leonard. Well, when we talked, Elyn, you also mentioned that your family put a lot of loving pressure on you to do well, and you really took that to heart. You really internalized that.
I did.
And I think some of the words that you used when we were talking about this were that you were really expected to be a good girl.
Yeah.
And you really followed the rules all of the time. Can you tell us a little bit about being in high school and experiencing some of your symptoms and how that felt for you when that happened? And if anybody at that time said anything about it, or if you shared with anybody about that?
Yeah, I guess my senior year of high school, I had just read Sylvia Plath's Bell Jar, and it spoke to me as it does to many adolescent girls and young women. One day I read her book, and one day I just got up in the middle of the day, walked out of school, and walked the several miles home. And on the way home, things started getting weird. The colors became purpley and wavy, and I felt like the houses were sending messages to me: be well, do well, you got to achieve, you got to succeed. There's no other choice, kind of thing. Um, it really scared me to death. And when I got home, I told my parents about it, but they didn't know what to do and didn't do anything. So then I just carried on with my life.
And was that was like the first major time that that really happened to you? Is that a symptom that has shown up throughout the years, or does it kind of manifest in different ways?
It shows up in that way and in different ways. I still, uh, actually, my husband Will used to say that psychosis was not like an on and off switch, but like a dimmer. And at the far end, I'd have crazy thoughts, and I'd, oh, Ellen, that's just your illness acting up. Pay it, not mine. Further along the spectrum, if we had house guests, I love people, but I find being around people too much stressful. I would be going in and out of psychosis, and at the far end, I would be crouched in a corner, holding my head, thinking that I was being attacked by demons with knives, and that was really scary. Um, and that doesn't happen to me anymore, thank God. You know, I do have symptoms from, excuse me, from time to time, but never that severe or long lasting. I'm very fortunate in that.
I found it really interesting when you were talking about the kind of expectations with your family
Yeah,
and that you did try to share, but that it wasn't really met with anything. And so you carried on, you carried forward, and you graduated with you were top of your class for high school, correct?
I know I was top of my class at Vanderbilt.
Okay, excellent. And when you were looking around for universities, can you tell us a little bit about how you chose Vanderbilt?
Well, my parents wanted me to stay in the South away from those liberal Northern influences. So I looked at a bunch of schools in the South and I liked Vanderbilt the best and chose it. It was sort of an unusual choice for a young Jewish woman because it wasn't very diverse at that time. But it turned out to be a good place for me to go.
Excellent. And at Vanderbilt, can you tell us a little bit about, I think you mentioned to me before that you weren't really into school. It wasn't
Right.
very exciting for you.
Right.
But that at Vanderbilt, that really changed for you. Can
Yeah.
you talk about that?
My first semester, I had a course called Intro to Ethics with Dr. John Locks. Um, and it really changed my life because in high school, we didn't really do anything interesting. We just sort of went through the paces. But the Intro to Ethics class was really interesting to me, um, and led me to see the beauty and value and well-being derived from serious thinking, if I can put it that way. So that sort of started me off on my journey toward academia and that kind of thing.
And big thinking. I love that.
Thank you.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your situation with your social life at Vanderbilt and your living situation, how that was?
Yeah, I actually made really close friends in a man named Kenny and a woman named Sue. Um, I've sort of lost touch with Sue, but I'm still in a lot of contact with Kenny. We remain good friends. And the library was across the street from the campus grill. And we go to the campus grill every day for lunch, and I would have a cheese sandwich, a grilled cheese sandwich, and what else? You know, soup, tomato soup.
So you can remember.
It
Um,
was a really important time in my life, and it was really great to have these two wonderful friends.
and did you go home very often when you were in undergrad, or did
I
you
think I
prefer?
went home my first summer, but after that, I stayed at Vanderbilt and worked, as a student. Um, so,
Can you talk a bit about your decision to not go home so much?
um, I just liked being a student. I liked the atmosphere of Vanderbilt. I just thought I would enjoy the summer more and be more productive and so on if I stayed down there. I went.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about as well, is that at this point you were living with a mental illness, but not understanding it. Did you feel that your academic education at that point in your life was supportive of your mental health, or were there any triggers that would lead to some symptoms
It was
at
both,
this time?
yeah, it was both supportive and sometimes led to symptoms. It was supportive because it gave me a focus and a purpose and a, sense of well-being. And it was difficult because I also wanted so to succeed, so that I had a lot of pressure on myself to do well. But
And then you graduated top of your class at Vanderbilt.
I did.
And then let's talk about what made you continue in your academic pursuit after Vanderbilt. A lot of people may have stopped going to school with undergrad. You got your degree, but you didn't do that. You wanted to continue. Can you talk a bit about that decision?
As I said, I found working, being productive gave me a sense of well-being and accomplishment and purpose. So that's pretty much why.
And then Oxford was the next stop.
Yes.
All right. So when we got to Oxford, geez, I'm sorry. You were a graduate student and what was your study area?
I was studying philosophy and ancient Greek.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit about how your time as a graduate student overseas was different from your time and experience as an undergraduate in the United States?
Well, basically, Oxford was much more hands-off and let me kind of do your own thing, which was both stressful because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it, but also very good because it led to a sense of accomplishment and well-being. So it had both good and bad features.
And while you were at Oxford, that is in your book, you talk about how you had two pretty long stays in the hospital, in the psych hospital at Oxford. You did not share that with your family or the school. How was that possible?
I'm just very good at putting a good face on things. I have 3 or 4 friends that we meet like once a month called the Mad Women, and we all have a diagnosis and we all talk about what passing is normal. That's one of the things that one tries to do to get on in the world and do well and not be too stigmatized. And I was fortunate that I was able to do that. I had friends to do it with.
Yeah. I guess that kind of speaks to the environment. And I am curious. I know that these pressures are internal, but there's also an external component to feeling the need to put on a good face, to not share that there are these other very serious things happening in your life. Can you talk a bit about the environment you were in, and if you thought of it as supportive for you as a whole person, or were you at Oxford, were you ever worried that if they were to find out about your hospitalization that?
Yeah, I was very worried. I mean, England's sort of interesting. It's both more open and inclusive and more stigmatizing at the same time. There's a little bit of both in the culture there. So I was kind of concerned and sort of did my best to hide it, which is too bad, to have a big secret like that. It's much better if you can be open and talk and get support and encouragement from friends and family. Yeah, and enjoy it.
When you were dealing with the hospitalization, you did have care providers at that time, right?
You mean when I was at Oxford and
And in the hospital, you were receiving care. So you
yeah,
did have, there was a small population of
right,
people who
right,
knew what was happening in your life.
right, right.
Um, and you hid your mental illness, and you graduated.
I did.
Can you talk a little bit about how that felt to you and how that led you to your next
Yeah,
chapter?
yeah. It felt hard and sad because I could have used some more understanding and support. But it was also good because as you said, it led to the next chapter. I didn't get labeled and put down and, prevented from doing things. So that was really nice.
Can you tell me when you did receive your official diagnosis?
I don't remember.
And I'm wondering, was it in the United States? It wasn't at Oxford, right?
I don't
Okay, fair enough. Um, so after Oxford, you have a master's degree,
Hamlet,
an
Master of
MLit,
Letters.
and you have your undergraduate, and you head to Yale
Yeah, yeah,
in pursuit of,
a JD.
okay. But you told me that you went for a different reason and switched to the
Yeah,
law.
I think I wanted to go in philosophy. That was sort of my love. But then I thought, too many bad memories with that. Let me try something else. So I was trying to decide between law and psychology, and I thought law, because of its focus on academic thinking and rigor and so on, would be better for me than psychology, which is more intuitive and person friendly. So I decided to go to law school.
And you ended up kind of putting those two together in your areas of study at Yale.
Yes, I spent a semester at the Yale Child Study Center studying children and the law and mental health law and that kind of thing. So that was very interesting and very exciting. Mm. And then what did I do next?
Well, I think at Yale, your symptoms did become pretty
Severe.
severe and a little more public than they had been in the past.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, about being a student at such a high level
Uh,
and also at this point not really being able to hide
yeah.
that you're living with a
Yeah.
mental illness?
It's difficult. It's difficult. You don't want people to know because it's so stigmatizing and what will they think of you, yet you desperately want them to know so that they can help you and support you. So it's a real dilemma. I think for a lot of people, it's just kind of sad because and you want people to know you and understand you and try to help you and that kind of thing.
Definitely, definitely. Um, when you were at Yale, you met your best friend, Steve,
Steve, yeah,
who I have the
who's,
pleasure of knowing, who's wonderful.
who's still my best friend.
Still your best friend. They talk every day, everyone.
More than once a day,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. And we throughout this, I was trying to get a kind of idea of what your social life and your social support system has been for you as you've been able to go from place to place, really doing very well academically, and yet still struggling
Right.
personally, internally, with all of this. Was Steve one of the people who you were able to disclose
Confided,
to?
yes, he was.
Okay. And how did that feel to have someone like
I
that in your life?
felt great. Felt great to be known and understood and not scorned or stigmatized or whatever. It was incredibly important. Um, And as we were saying, he's still my closest friend, and I speak to him usually more than once a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, after Yale, you decided to work a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about transitioning from being a student into your professional world while also living now with a mental illness that you knew for sure you were living with? As you were preparing kind of for that transition to being a professional, what were some of the considerations that you were making for yourself to prepare yourself for?
No, I just feel like I wanted people to know and understand and help me with the transition. And Steve was someone who did that. There was a professor at Yale Law School named Steve Weisner, who was very supportive. When I first broke down, I went to talk to him, and he did not scorn or stigmatize me or tell me to drop out of school. He was standing there by my side saying, sorry, you're going through this, you can do this, I will help you, let me help you. It was just an amazing gift to have him as a law professor.
That is an amazing gift.
Yes.
Especially that we know that so many people who may have the same diagnosis as you often are told
Right.
they won't work or they will not have a, successful professional life.
I was told that. I was told don't have high expectations. You're going to probably live in a boarding care and it'll work and that kind of thing a little bit, when you're in good stages, don't expect to have a professional life. And it's just the wrong message to send and the wrong answer.
Yeah, you
I
did not
didn't
accept
listen.
that. You did not.
Listen. Yeah.
I love that independent spirit that you have. So what did you do right after Yale? You worked in law for a little bit.
I worked at a law firm for about 6 months or 8 months. I did housing law where there was an eviction with a defense or a lockout, and family law, children law when there was contested custody or domestic violence. And I did that at a legal services organization, and I found the work at the same time both very stressful and very didn't really fulfill me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You were missing that
the intellectual.
the intellectual
Yeah.
challenges that I
Yeah.
think you had found so helpful
Right.
over all of these years and so
Right.
stimulating.
And faced with challenges of interacting with people who are having a difficult time and not knowing what to do or how to help.
Yeah, that
It was
doesn't feel
painful.
good. It's very painful.
Yeah.
So then you came to California,
USC.
to USC.
Yes.
And over all of this time, you have been able to really excel and make a name for yourself. And you came to USC, and we talked about kind of that transition into the professional space. But here you are coming back into academia.
Yeah.
Were you worried at all that being in an environment where your
Right.
symptoms did start to show up would trigger more symptoms, or were you did you feel like the academic environment really supported you more than you were worried about any of the stressors?
That's exactly the right way to put it.
That's great. And so at USC, you had how many years before your book?
I started here in '99 and I came out in 2007.
Okay. Okay. So you've had more than half now of your time at USC where you have been out.
Yes.
As living with schizophrenia.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about how the environment was when you started at USC for you as a woman, as a younger professor? Talk to us a bit about the environment here at that time.
It's a pretty good environment. It's a very positive and empowering environment. I became close friends with a person who started the same year as I did, named Ed. And we used to chat and strategize about how we were going to make it through tenure and what we thought of our other faculty members, especially senior faculty members, supporting each other like that. So that was really cool. Then I also had a friend named Michael, who was a bioethics professor. And we had a great time. He would invite me to his family for dinner and, supported me in everything I wanted to do. He was really great. So it was good to come to a place where there were people I could really connect with and interact with and that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
amazing.
really and what did you teach when you first started at USC?
I taught criminal law and I taught mental health law. And criminal law was a big first year class, like 70 or 80 students. And the first day I stood up and started talking and my legs got weak and I sat down and I spent the rest of the semester teaching sitting down. And then the joke issue of the law review, the students had this, Elyn slacks, the sitting Socratic method techniques of dynamism or something like that. It was really funny.
Okay, so you did not, it was
Right.
taking too much out of you to stand and teach, but mind you, you used to roller skate all over this campus.
I
So
did. I did.
can you talk a little bit about that
Yeah.
and being a professor who roller skates around?
So I started roller skating pretty much as soon as I came here. There was a good rink in a place called Glendale, which is quite a ways away from here, about 45 minutes or an hour. But I would go there and I would skate and have a wonderful time. And then when I stopped being able to drive, I just started skating on campus. Um, so from the law school to the business school and back, and it was really kind of funny and really fun. And the students would see me and they'd start chuckling. It was really funny.
Love that. I love,
Yeah.
I'm imagining it.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun.
And you met your love of your life
Well,
here
yeah.
at USC.
Uh,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Will was a librarian here, and he was the weekend supervisor. And I used to go down to the library on the weekend and ask him to help me find something and try to flirt with him. And he said after the fact that I was not a good flirt at all, and a very annoying professor who wanted him to do stuff that he didn't want to do. It was kind of funny. And then he invited me out to see the poppies in Lancaster to take a day. And I must have really liked him because I don't usually take days off even on weekends.
You do not.
Yeah,
Everybody, for everyone's record, Elyn works 7 days a week.
I do.
No days off.
I did. But so we went to see the poppies together, and it was a really beautiful experience. And I kept saying I was cold, hinting he should put his arm around me, which he never did, which left me very deflated. But though at the end of the poppy excursion, he kissed me a long, lingering kiss goodbye. And the thought I had, and this is literally the thought that went through my mind, is, "Huh, this is even better than getting an article accepted." Kind of sad.
That's actually very perfectly you. Article accepted, long lingering. I'm glad that that one went out. So you and Will started seeing each other and he became another person who you were able to be your full self with.
Yeah.
Can at this point you still had not talked to your parents at all about your mental health.
Right.
And so but you were building a community
Right.
around you of people who knew.
Right.
And did you feel like your workspace would maybe be open to you being a person living with schizophrenia?
I guess I eventually did. Of course, I waited until I got tenure, but I felt like it was a place where people could accept and understand me. That felt really good.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to kind of end here and talk a bit. Obviously, everybody knows now after the fact you have written this beautiful book
Thank you.
about your life and about your experiences, and you are very public and very much an advocate for people living with serious mental illness and autonomy and decision making.
Right.
You're world known and world revered. Everybody loves you and is very thankful and has benefited from your message in your book. So thank you for that. And I did want to talk about you as a professor because this entire time, basically what I gained from this conversation is that you did not access any support the entire time that you did all of these things. But that was not easy. It was actually very, very, very challenging. And the entire time you wish that you could have been more open and known that you could have received support.
Support and love and care. Yeah, absolutely.
So you, as a professor, how are you making the environment in academia?
I try to make it as open and inclusive as I can. I sort of tell the students in the beginning my story and say that I know a lot of law schools are very stressful and a lot of people have struggles and difficulties, but my office door is always open. I would be happy for you to come by and have a conversation if you think that would help you. If not, fine, but I just want you to know that I've experienced this and I'm open to talking with other people about their experiences and trying to help them.
Yeah. And I know, how has the environment changed around mental health? How have the attitudes changed?
I think things have changed. I think people are more open and accepting. I'm not sure why, but I think that's the case.
Well, I think we've noticed in certain classes that there are more people talking more openly about mental health, right?
That's true.
And that wasn't always the case. It has not been a safe place for people to do that.
Right.
But it sounds like your classrooms are a safe space for people to do that. And I guess I just want to ask what you hope that academia can do to be more supportive of mental health and integrate mental health into academia. What would you like to see?
More discussion of mental health, more openness about mental health, an invitation for people to talk and to talk with me and to talk with each other. And that kind of thing.
What about courses or
Yeah, I
anything
think
lines of study? Do you think there are enough courses about mental health?
no, I think that should be.
All right. Okay, everybody, you heard it here.
Yeah,
I know that we are over time, and I do just want to see if we have time for any Q&A, or what are we thinking, Angie?
Yes, you have time for Q&A.
yes, for sure.
We definitely do. Are there anything in the chat? Should I check that?
I can't see it.
It says we can see both. And that this is an enriching conversation.
Oh,
and thank you.
okay, so much. Any questions?
There are no questions. I think everyone's just enjoying the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, one of the things that I also take away from your journey is that academia it can be safe for some people to disclose and to be their full selves. But that it is not yet safe for everybody.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
Yeah,
There's a real gift and privilege, and if you have it, and you can, arguably you should.
We do have our first question. How can students with mental illness be supported in higher levels of education?
Higher levels of what?
And education and academia. How can students living with mental illness be supported as they are pursuing higher degrees?
I just think an openness in the environment and a message that mental illness isn't something evil, it's an illness, and that there are things that can be done about it and for it. And that, we hope that the classroom here is inclusive enough that people feel like they can talk or in public or in private with each other or with the professors. So that kind of thing.
I would like to add to that. I know from my own experiences that attempting to access any accommodations is actually really challenging in academia. And in my experience, didn't really yield very many accommodations that were useful. But where I felt very fortunate was with professors.
Mhm.
Elyn has never been a professor of mine. We work together, but I see you as a professor who is very understanding about anything that students may need. Students do not have to share why they may need support or an extension on an assignment or need to miss class at some day or really any number of things that allow for people to be the brilliant adults that made it here to this level of study, and can also remain private people about their own struggles, but get the support they need to be able to succeed. And I think that you make space for that. And I have been fortunate to find that at an individual level or class by class level, some professors really they can make or break your academic experience, and your access to a degree.
I think that's definitely true.
Yeah. How does one not personally combat stigma?
How does what?
One not personally combat stigma.
One not person.
Yes. How does one personally combat stigma?
Yeah, how do you personally combat stigma?
Yeah. How do you do it?
How do I
Yeah.
say? I try to be open and disclose about my experience and welcome students to come in and talk. Hook them up with other students if they want to be hooked up and the other students want to be hooked up. That kind of thing. The first day of class, I sort of go around the room and ask people what spurred their interest in mental health. And almost to a person, they had something very impersonal to say. Oh, it was a subject that interested me, that kind of thing. But more recently, students have been more open and self-disclosed in this first class and forged close bonds with other students who self-disclosed. And it turned out to be a good and enriching experience for them and for professors too, to have students do that or professors to do that. So I think that's important.
Definitely. I would like to add to that, in my own personal journey, it's hard not to feel very alone in your experiences. And I would say that by knowing other people who have excelled and live with mental illness, that has been very helpful. People who are open, who do have more power, talking about living with mental illness and normalizing that. I also think that really talking about how mental illness is forever and that we're always living with it and it ebbs and flows, as with our physical health, really, I think would be helpful for people to understand, and that it doesn't make us dangerous people,
Right.
that we live with serious mental illness.
Dangerous or toxic in any way.
No, but that it can make us scared people,
Right.
and it can make us feel like we don't belong in spaces when those spaces are have attitudes about negative attitudes about mental illness. So I'm sorry I don't have full answers for how to combat that internal stigma, but it's a long process and
But an important and valuable one.
definitely important and valuable. Yeah. Um, Did you not ask for support at first because you didn't see an example of it in higher education or law? Support wasn't talked about openly, for example, when you were at Vanderbilt, Oxford, and Yale. So did you not ask for support in those spaces because you didn't see?
Even realize the possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the case.
Yeah. I think when we were talking, you even mentioned that you never even thought about disability or mental health necessarily.
Right.
These were not things that were openly discussed.
Right.
And you didn't have any models
Yeah.
for you in any of these spaces, did you?
I did have that I mentioned my law professor friend who supported me a lot, so that
At
was
Yale.
extremely, yeah, that was extremely helpful.
Definitely. And then what do you think that support should, hold on, where is it? Do, 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 do. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that question. Where did it go? Angie, am I missing one?
What do you think support should look like was the last question.
Yeah. What do you think support should look like today? Is this in general or in academia? You can talk to both.
I don't really know both, but I just think opinion. What does support look like today?
Yeah, what should it
What should
look like today?
just an openness to talking about it and an expression of a willingness to understand, try to understand and help. Those kinds of things I think can make a difference. As I said, my law professor, Steve Weisner, was really supportive and was really helpful to me, that he could let me come forward and talk to him about what was going on and not try to take me to the hospital or stigmatize me, but just say, sorry you're going through this and I feel for you and I'm happy to help however I can. That was an amazing, supportive and kind message to get from a professor.
Well, it sounds like he saw you as a full human.
Person.
Yeah, a full person, not just a mental
not
illness.
just this set of symptoms.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And honestly, I wish that that's what it looked like across the board. I think the reason that we have to seek out accommodations and that there are laws against discrimination is because that's not the norm in the world or in academic situations. So I wish that support looked like what we talked about, which was just really treating people as people and meeting people where they are and extending supports that each individual needs.
It's not a one size fits all.
It's not one size fits all. Exactly. Yeah. And people shouldn't have to fight so hard for it.
They should not have to. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you're already feeling debilitated and derailed and so on, and to have to start fighting again is a challenge.
Well, and I think a lot of your work has been focused on autonomy and decision making for people living with serious mental illness. And so what does that mean? That means that you, as the person, get to make your own decisions, even if somebody else doesn't think it's the right decision. We all learn from our decisions and our mistakes. And it's part of being a human to be able to make our own decisions.
I agree. I agree. Part of autonomy and well-being is to make your own decisions. I hope you make good decisions and we'll try to help you make good decisions, but in the end, it's your decision.
Yeah, it's your decision. And then you can see what that leads to, Yeah. And you don't get abandoned. You would have your support around you, even when you make a poor decision or make a decision that leads to some problems. People wouldn't say, "Oh, I told you." They would be there for you because that's what we do for each other.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. It is exhausting to constantly fight for one's rights for autonomy, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there anything else that anyone has? It's so great to be here with you today.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invitation. Thanks so
much. This is actually a very important question. And I think one that we talked about before is that especially in workspaces and academia, it is not safe for everyone to self-disclose. It just isn't. This is not the environment or the reality that we're living in. But and the question is, do you recommend students to self-disclose?
I recommend that they find someone that they feel safe self-disclosing to and self-disclosing. I mean, it's just important to not have to put, not to have a big secret to um, come out with who you really are and what you need. Um, and so it depends, you know, as I said, I waited until I had tenure, which is a real gift, and not everybody has that advantage or pleasure. Um, but I would hope that everybody has people in their lives who can, you know, help and understand and would do so. Um, but it's an individual decision and it varies as to what the results will be.
Definitely. And I think that identity is and the intersection of identities and overlapping of intersection of identities
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
contributes to who is safe
Right.
to disclose in different spaces and
Right.
who is not.
Right.
You really talk about in a way your decision was quite secure. You
Right,
had
'cause I had
you
tenure.
had tenure, you weren't going to lose your job.
Right.
You were in a very high position to be
Right.
able to do this publicly. But even in that situation, were there people who didn't think that you should disclose?
Sure. And there were people who, when I did disclose, were very stigmatizing and demeaning and that kind of thing. I mean, most people weren't. Most people, at least to my face, were kind and caring. Um, but there were people who weren't. Um, I actually mentioned to a late friend of mine who was a geriatric psychiatrist that you think I should self-disclose at work. And she says, no, do you want to become known for as a schizophrenic with a job? And I thought to myself, well, that's not how I want to be known. But not talking is just sending the message that this is just too awful to say out loud. So I did self-disclose, and in the end, she said I was right. You know, I made the right decision.
I think oftentimes people are concerned that
Right.
you might be putting yourself
Right.
in a, dangerous situation or precarious situation by disclosing something. So, yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. There's still a ton of work to do in the world and in academia,
Yes.
especially around stigma and mental health.
Feel free to get in touch if you'd like to, you know, continue the conversation, say hi or whatever.
Elyn loves hearing from people, so please reach out to continue the conversation. Again, she works 7 days a week. And she is very busy, but she's really very generous with her time. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's good to speak to you and be well.
It was an honor, everybody. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks.